Men also just recently picked up a new card.
Got a new card, yeah.
Well, I remember I saw the discussions about it. I was like, "Is this deck real again?" And like immediately when I put it together, I went, "Oh my god, this is amazing."
This is nuts, yeah.
I was like, "Oh, how did I miss this? This is so good." So if something like Battery Men came out and win, it would be absolutely fantastic just to look at it and go, "Wow, that guy figured it out."
Right. So you can follow us the whole weekend. We're going to have written coverage. We're going to have a live stream where we present you with all the feature matches. There's so much to see this weekend. Just join us for the following 48 hours and enjoy the stream.
Take care, guys. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
I'm feeling the flow. Dual Disc, go! Dual Gazer, let's roll. Dual interface set.
Augmented reality vision link established.
Let's duel!
Whether you have just chimed in or you've been a long-time follower of the stream, we welcome you once again for the last round and day one of YCS Madrid. I'm Oliver German, I'm your host for the weekend, and I'm joined by Matt Bell from Konami, the European Kevin Tewart is what people keep telling me. I'm not sure that's true, but I'll let you be the judge of that. So we have had 6 great rounds in front of that. We expected to see a lot of Shadow, Burning Abyss, and Satella Knights. We saw Monarchs, Mermails, Lightsworn. It was pretty crazy. We even saw Shadows together with Burning Abyss in one deck.
Yeah, no, just to... the thing is, I don't know how that skewed the percentages, because was that classed as a Shadow deck when it was counted, or was
it
in
was
the
going
other?
in the other direction, in the other category.
I suppose you would have to, really.
Right. So for the last round, we found 2 skilled German players who were sitting like kind of on the bubble. They really need to win this round to stay in competition. They have 12 points each. On the one hand, we got Benedikt Jung, a player who is kind of famous for playing Scrap before in a very successful manner. And on the other hand, we have Piran, who has been making waves. You would expect Mermails now, but no, I got to correct you there. It's Infernities. And he's done so for quite a few times at the last few events. So he's like an expert, knowing everything about the Infernity deck.
The Infernity deck is a combo deck that just takes a lot of repetition to learn how all the combos works. The idea of the deck, if you're not familiar and you've maybe missed the reruns we've running off the World Championships final, is that you empty your hand and you summon the Infernity Archfiend, who then searches your deck for an Infernity card, and you keep finding ways to resummon that monster to search for Infernity Barriers, Infernity Breaks, and you set up this field of lots of XE monsters and everything you need to stop your opponent.
Yes.
And your opponent starts their turn and they can't do anything. And Infernity is a deck that has an advantage over Spellbooks, because Spellbooks are very dependent on stringing together cards, and they have a bit of a slow start, and they can't play out of this combo very well at all.
Going into the match, we kind of expect Piran to be slightly favored here. It's on the other hand, it's not going to be a surprise for Benedikt that Piran is playing Infernity once again. He's kind of famous for it by now. He's played like 4 or 5 events in a row with like maybe one exception. So on the other hand, you mentioned it, Benedikt is playing Spellbooks this weekend. Also, definitely not what we expected to see.
I really like the Spellbook deck. The Spellbook deck tries to engineer a game state where it's putting Spellbook of Fate back in its deck each turn, getting it back out, killing your card, and it's playing High Priestess of the Prophecy, and just constantly gets you in this situation where it's drawing 2 cards a turn, it's taking one of your cards away a turn, and I'm not so good at math, but you run out of cards pretty quick.
That seems as straightforward as it gets. So once again, we're about to get started with the match. The biggest surprise for me, once I looked at the guy sitting down there, is like Benno is actually wearing a jacket. And we're in Madrid.
Yeah, it's pretty hot. I had to take my my jacket off from my suit because I was actually getting so hot here. And the tie had to come off because it felt like it was choking me by the end of it. But here they are, just wearing a jacket.
Yes. So Benno on the left, Piran on the right. Once again, we see the cards popping up in their hands. Interesting thing, the Infernity deck actually got better after the draw rule was introduced, where the player going first only starts with 5 cards, because you really want to have an empty hand. So it's basically playing right in your favor.
Yeah, having less cards, although it's interesting. I'm trying to think of how he's going to combo off this hand. But Spellbook's getting that very important first turn, which against Infernity makes it a lot harder for Piran to do this combo and wipe out Benedikt in the very first turn. Or rather, engineer a game state where his opponent can't play any cards.
Right.
So we're seeing Spellbook of the Crescent, and one of these 3 cards will be added to Benedikt's hand. He randomly selects.
Now we're gonna have it on our app in just a second. It's he's already got a Book of Moons, Spellbook, Magician of Prophecy, Pot of Duality,
The Grand Spellbook Tower.
Grand Spellbook Tower. So that's, like you said, a pretty strong opening, and he's not done just yet. He just continues to
Spellbook at a master, copying the Crescent.
thin out his deck, find all the cards. This is one of the few decks where you like flipping through it. 50% are going to be green cards.
Yeah.
And not to be confused with work visa in the US. So they are slightly more useful at Yu-Gi-Oh. So we got lots of spell books. We were actually kind of blaming in the last round one of the players for playing 3 spell cards, because one of them was a Dark Hole, and we said if he wouldn't have main decked that, he might have won the first round, first game in that particular round. So in this particular scenario, it's quite the opposite. You really don't mind playing 21 spell cards and spell books.
If you're playing spellbooks and you're not drawing any of your spells, I suppose you're not too upset because you're getting Spellbook Magician, unless you're drawing 3 High Priestess of the Prophecy, then 3 Justice of the Prophecy in a row. Then you're going to feel pretty upset. But
yes. So that concludes the strong first turn for Benno, who now has, well, a monster on the field. He's got his field spell card out, and a back row card, which is a Book of Moon. So he's sitting there, pretty good shape, and Piran needs to come up with something. Has an Armageddon Knight, which
he's drawn a second Soul Charge, Piran. So Armageddon Knight going to be sending
probably the Stygian Street Patrol to the graveyard. It's his usual target. I've watched him quite a few times. It's interesting because Piran does take his time to come up with the best possible moves, but he knows how the deck is working, and still he needs to go over it several times to make sure that he gets this right.
Yeah, this is one of those decks where you have to practice it so much that you can do anything with your 5-card hand, regardless of what 5 cards it is. It is hours and hours and hours of practice.
Yes.
And here we are, we're going to be able to see a Laval Chain play, which will allow Piran to start
getting his combo. Yeah, but the Book of Moon is actually, it's able to stop that combo from resolving.
Yes, it can. He can use it to flip the Laval Chain face down.
Yeah, so Benno, being the veteran that he is, he tries to give his best impression of somebody who doesn't have an answer. Trying to bait Piran into that, I don't want to say big play, kind of obvious play in that situation. And Piran is checking the contents of his hand, but there's not much that helps him right now. Now, is there anything you want to do, sending to the graveyard with Foolish maybe before you use the Laval Chain?
Not yet. There's nothing here that would make this play sequence any different. You could Foolish first, but you're going to be... Is that Diamond Direwolf that he went for, not Laval Chain?
What?
Yeah, it's Diamond Direwolf that got played. It wasn't Laval Chain.
That is pretty surprising.
He's probably aware that his opponent's playing maybe something to stop the Laval Chain based on how he's not reacting at all. Wants to force this back row card before he tries to do his combo, because he has got Soul Charges to recover.
It's still an interesting choice from Piran.
Well, now this Foolish Burial could string together. You can set all the other cards then, Foolish Burial, play Soul Charge.
Yeah, a Direwolf with just 1,200 defense is not going to put up much of a fight, even against the, generally speaking, weaker monsters that the Prophecy deck is running, or Spellbook deck is running. Now Piran is sending...
yeah, there's a Soul Charge.
There's the Soul Charge, yeah. That's an Arc Fiend, which he's going to bring back. And we are at the point which we mentioned earlier, that he just tries to find ways to summon that card over and over and over again. So our internal counter lists 1 for the Archfiend. And I think if Piran can do it 5 times in a game, he's going to pay for the first round at the hotel bar tonight.
I'm not sure how much further he can go. He's in search for an Infernity barrier.
Yeah.
He still has a Diamond Direwolf on the field, which his opponent's going to have to deal with, and the Spellbook Magician is going to be knocked off the field here. No, he can't because of
He
Soul
can't
Charge,
attack
sorry.
because of Soul Charge, yes.
Yeah.
But doesn't look terribly awful for Piran right here.
Yeah, he survived the Infernity turn 1.
So
We should almost make that a T-shirt. Like, I
I
survived
survived
the
Infernity.
Infernity turn 1. Oh my god, that's brilliant.
yeah, you should. The other funny thing is you can have a new edition of that T-shirt every single year, because there's got to be a time when this deck is got to be playable. So, Benno adds a second copy of his Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. And once again, he's going to go searching, and Piran really has to contemplate when he wants to use the barrier, which is the crucial moment.
There's a big catch with cards like Infernity Barrier, Satella, Nova Alpha. There's how you have this tooth-away thing. How long can you wait before you use it, and when do you have to use it?
Yes.
Or just let it go and not use it in some cases, but...
Right. So he did instead use a Solemn Warning, which is seems like the better option at this point.
Yeah, Solemn Warning lets him keep the Infernity Barrier, which is an answer to spell cards, monster effects, and trap cards, whereas the Solemn Warning is only answer to a summon. So keeping his negation options maximized is what's important for Piran here.
So a Pot of Duality, so we're not going to see any special summons this turn from Benno, which is not too surprising, considering that his attempt of the second normal summon, which could then lead to Exceed summon, for example, got foil. And he's...
Okay, he takes the Spellbook of the Crescent.
Yeah, does it even pay out to shuffle here? Because he's
well, he can activate the Crescent because he has Spellbooks in his graveyard. And I think you can only play Spellbooks the turn that you play it as well. It's been a little while since I've played Prophecy. But for you guys at home...
looks like a Spellbook of Power.
Yep, Power is going to let him...
make sure that the Magician can actually attack over the Diamond Direwolf that is set on Piran's side of the field. And Piran, well, I don't want to say didn't see this coming. The thing is, if he gets to destroy it, not only does he take out the Exceed monster, which is going to be a threat later on, otherwise, he also gets to search his deck for another Spellbook and gets his engine going. So this seems like a good opportunity. Yes, and Piran agrees.
It forces the Infernity barrier. That comes from experience. He knows actually the only other card he has is Soul Charge here.
Yeah, and it certainly seemed like the right move. I mean, judging from Benno's follow-up play, very defensive, and his the posture once again giving away that he's not feeling super confident. At least that's how it appears to me. It seems like Piran made the right call right there.
Okay, we're going to see Diamond Direwolf being flip summoned.
Yep. So we got the field of Benno on the right-hand side.
Bottomless Trap Hole being one of the cards set by Benedikt to take out Diamond Direwolf before it can start destroying other cards.
So now the game is in a state where both players are very low on cards. That's, generally speaking, that should favor the Infernity player.
It should, but we're looking at an established Spellbook, Grand Spellbook tower. So for every one card Piran is drawing each turn, Benedikt is drawing 2.
Yes.
And he has a lot of searching options to then start picking up Spellbook of Fates to let him really start disrupting the play. So while the Infernity player should be in the advantageous position,
he needs to come up with something and fast.
Yeah, he can't sit around for long like this. And the longer the game goes on, the more likely it is to favor Prophecy.
Right. So Piran's card in hand is a Photon Thrasher that also combos well with other elements in the deck.
It allows you to make those early turn 1 level chains whilst emptying your hand of monsters, because the death sentence for this deck appears to be some when you draw too many monsters in your opening hand, can't get rid of them.
Yep.
And you can't use any of your Infernity cards. And then you've got to, if you put your combo together after your opponent's established everything. It's an uphill battle. It's not unwinnable. Okay, we're seeing a 3-monster soul charge.
2 monsters because
2 monsters. Oh yeah, the Arcfiend was already down.
was already. Yep. And this is a great opening for Piran if just he can resolve one Naval chain, because he can then send the Arcfiend to the graveyard, trigger the chain, use the Dirge to special summon. So there are like plenty of options that he's aware of.
I imagine in this case he's still got that Thrasher in hand, which is stuck as long as he's controlling a monster, because he can't special summon it. So
but he didn't normal summon this turn.
It can only be special summoned, the Thrasher.
Right.
So in actual fact, the card that's being used to help his early game is acting as a hindrance here. But he has used Armageddon Knight to send Archfiend Herodress to the graveyard, which will allow him to search his deck again.
Is there any way for him to discard it?
Oh, for a moment I thought that was Dark Geroid, and I was just I was like, minus 800 attack on a normal summon?
Then I suddenly switched to the channel where they showed the original Yu-Gi-Oh anime.
Yeah, I was just like, hold on, that can't be what I just saw.
Alright, so Piran has an Arcfiend and a Thrasher on his hand.
Alright, what extra deck options does Piran have
He
here?
might be able to use the Stygian Dirge to special summon the Thrasher from his hand. But no, this is also not possible, because it needs to be first special summoned via its own effect. Right, so we should probably also read the cards before, or I should read the cards before I comment on them. So,
It's Diamond Direwolf again.
taking down...
He's trying to get those monsters off the field so he can special summon the Thrasher.
Yes.
That's a really interesting problem. I believe Jason pointed this out on the World Championships analysis panel that we had. That you had this potential for the card to really actually negatively impact you in the mid stages of the game if you can't get your combo going. But it's a risk versus reward of making your early game so much better. And Archfiend, yeah, the Infernity theme is very much, I want my early game to be as maximized as possible. It's what let Sihabi win the World Championship, was having that turn 1 in game 2. That was utterly, utterly insane.
So once again, Benno found his last copy of Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, if I'm not all mistaken.
I love how clueless this guy looks. I brought this up in Amsterdam, but very much feels like it represents my personality sometimes. It's like, I was in this library for something, but I don't remember what. And I feel like that sometimes.
So he's looking for the right book volume.
Oh, that's what he does.
Yeah.
So it's very characterful.
The funny thing is, like, if Benedikt would have known what Piran is holding on to, he might have opted not to attack the Armageddon Knight there.
Yeah, he may have decided to leave his opponent in a situation where, well, his opponent would then have to summon the Archfiend, make another rank 4. Okay, we're seeing another Polar Duality. And then he'd have an empty fill for the...
Yep. Is that a Reckless Greed in the middle?
Yes, it is a Reckless Greed. And he is going to take Reckless Greed.
Yep. I couldn't even make the other 2 cards.
Spellbook of Fate in hand as well.
Right.
Again, one of the best quick plays in the game, actually. Well, Mystical Space Typhoon probably holds that title for its number of answers it can get.
Yes.
In terms of how many cards this actually deals with and awkward game states it creates, this card is absolutely amazing.
Right. So Piran drew for his turn into an instant fusion, which...
Okay, now he's got an empty field. He can clear his hand out.
And that's...
here we go. Yeah, you're right. He can go Photon Thrasher, Instant Fusion, Laval Chain, Stygian Dirge, Archfiend, and start playing. But he's got to play it into back row, and that's quite a weak play.
It's not what he wants, but most of the time you can expect only one real answer in the back row of a Spellbook player.
Yeah, and if it's Spellbook of Fate in this case.
Yes. So I don't think that Piran is too unhappy at this point.
What else can he do? If he
yeah,
passes,
I mean,
he loses.
he needs to go home or go big or go home, basically.
He's going to lose either way. So whenever you end these situations, you've got one play. Your opponent might have the answer, you're going to lose if your opponent has that, regardless. If you don't make the play, he beats you. If you make the play and he has the answer, he beats you. Just go for it. You know, there might be a chance that it goes through, and then
there's no
swing the
point
game.
trying to like hang in there when you're not going to win later on. You just go for it and try to win right there and then, if that is your only option. So as we pointed out, the Spellbook of Fate.
Yeah, he's not even going to let him get the level chain into play.
Which makes sense.
He's going to leave him with the Common Wizard, which is a very cool looking fusion. It doesn't do anything.
Well, it makes Exceeds monsters.
Yes, there's a lot of these really old fusions. We get a lot of requests for random ones because they happen to have the exact type and attribute you need for an XC summon or a Synchro summon. They're a lot of fun ones, and the instant fusion application.
Right.
Not many people are playing polymerization to summon these. Not like the good old days, right?
So Piran committing to the field once again. His Arcfiend ended up there, which is not too surprising.
Yep, so he can still make his rank 4 play here, but not entirely sure.
It wasn't a special summon, but he still gets to Surge once again. Oh no, I think he special summoned it with the Stygian Street Patrol because he gets the Surge.
Yeah, if he's searching it, was yeah, he's banished Stygian.
So yeah, once again the kind of obvious move that makes 2 on our counter of Infernity Arcfiend searching his deck and getting special summoned to the field, and I have a feeling it's not going to be the last one in this round. That's Infernity Necromancer.
He hasn't used his normal summon this turn.
Yes.
It's important to note because it's the instant fusion, the Stygian, there we go, level chain. He knows his combo here.
Yeah, he goes like this is he can do this.
Look
with
how fast
with
he's
a
moving.
blindfold on his eyes. He can do that.
I'll tell you what, I'd be more impressed if he did this with one hand and shuffle the deck. Like, yeah, I can find all my cards.
Yeah.
One-handed duel.
Well,
honestly.
I think if it came to that, he would just like lay down his deck face up and tell his opponent like this is what's gonna happen. So you might as well like.
Can you do me a favor and just pick out the cards?
Yeah,
I
that
read
would be
them.
really nice of you. So right, the Lava Wall Chain sending something to the graveyard. Necromancer, bringing back the Arcfiend. 2 of them, in fact. So our count is up on 4, if I'm not all mistaken.
No, you're right.
See, it's even hard to just try and keep track of this one card that gets special summoned to the field. And there are 5 special summons per turn, on average, in Infernity matches. In this particular scenario, we might be in looking at double digits. Max C would be really good right now.
Yeah, I would like to have all the cards in the world to deal with this after this combo finishes. There's going to be no Infernity Barracks. It is a limited card now. What rank 3 is that? I can't quite make it out. Oh, Levier the Sea Dragon to get back Stygian Dirge so he can get another Archfiend off.
Yeah, I think there's a special summon somewhere. And Piran once again looking through his extra deck. Yeah, we keep saying Stygian Dirge. It's Stygian Street Patrol, of course.
Stygian Street Patrol. Sorry, guys.
Thank you guys for pointing it out. You can see it on the right-hand side.
It's actually right here, and I've not even... I've just been saying it because I've been trying to pronounce it right.
Put up the card again for you.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you for the correction. You are of course correct. It's the Street Patrol. I'm just gonna leave out the Stygian part because that's what's confusing us.
Yeah, the Street Patrol. That we'll stick with that.
If you've just joined us now, Stygian Dirge was playing a major role in one of the earlier games we saw today.
Against Rick Cherry.
Against Rick Cherry. A very entertaining match. I recommend after this match concludes, you just like rewind everything and start watching from that moment on. Alright. So, Infernity still in the loop.
Number 80, Rhapsody in Berserk.
Yes.
Going to be able to take out some of the Spellbook options. Although, interestingly, if you do banish the Spellbook of Fate, you always cry if your opponent plays Spellbook of Eternity immediately and grabs it back. You're like, oh.
So you cannot see it really on the stream because you got this bird's eye view. But we got a second camera where we can see the players from the side. And Benno is talking quite a bit, also chewing quite nervously. And he's telling Piran, Jesus, man, when are you ever going to be done with that whole thing? And in fact, just in that very moment, he is. So game advances to the battle phase.
That's a lot of attack points.
Yes. And Benno is like,
Yeah,
yep, that's
game.
pretty much it. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. And the Infernities once again show that you just have to give them a slight opening. It didn't.
As soon as that Spellbook of Fate was gone,
Yes.
he comboed off.
And like we said, I mean, half the time the Spellbookers only have one way to defend themselves. It's most of the time it's just the Spellbook of Fate, and then Piran has enough to push through that, and he just did.
Yeah, as soon as he got that opening, you saw how lightning fast he went for the decks. He saw the window and went for it.
So Piran's got the, well, he's got the light imprisoning mirror, which is not going to do as much as it does in other matches because the monster count is so low for Benno. But is the magician a light monster?
No, the Spellbook Magician is a water monster.
You're right.
So High Priestess is a light monster, but the Spellbook of Wisdom can make her unaffected by traps, so light imprisoning
so
mirror is not.
it doesn't seem to be a good option here.
Full House, that's where you place face up.
Yeah,
Spellbook
oh no,
tower.
I've seen a full house from Piran that was basically costing his opponent 4 cards.
Oh, well.
So
yeah, we're not going to see it this
we're going to
game,
see it in this game, yes. That was definitely against another deck. And that was like one of the biggest plays we've seen on that whole weekend. Other than that, he's got a Diffusion in his side deck, which is not going to do much, I think. Mind Control.
Not really
No.
helpful. There's
So
no level
I think
fours
the
to
interesting
work
choices are up to Benedikt.
with. Maxis immediately.
Yeah, Maxi is definitely gonna get introduced from the side deck. He's got Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, also a very good card.
Again, with the overlap between Shadow and Infernity, that you get caught in the crosshairs of side deck cards that they're already playing.
Yep. What about Fire Hand and Ice Hand? I don't think they are that good.
If he goes first and gets one of these cards down, his opponent has to keep playing spells and monsters onto the field in order to make sure his barrier and breaks are live. You got a lot of cards then to target with Fire and Ice Hand to start taking them out. So maybe not a terrible choice, but the Infernity barrier will shut down the first one.
So we said it before. Both players are currently sporting 12 points. How is the matchup of Spellbooks against the other popular decks, against Shadows?
Against Shadow, it's you got Spellbook of Fate is a very good answer against the Construct and Windra. You've got a lot of searching potential there to make sure you consistently get to your answers. I feel like against Satellar Knight, it's kind of a losing position unless you're getting the Spellbook of Fate at exactly the right times to deny your opponent's Altar plays.
Yep.
But you're playing removal cards on monsters that replace themselves or have already done what they do.
Yeah, so it's not much of a win.
You just fall for it further and further behind. And against Burning Abyss, even if you Spellbook of Fate, the Dante, the Burning Abyss monster still triggers in the graveyard.
Yep. So it seems like an odd choice, doesn't it?
Yeah. I like Prophecy. It's, you can make arguments for and against it. It just depends on which one you want to.
Yep. And players are getting ready. They are about to start game 2 once again. We got the contents popping up. We can show you Piran's hand. Where we got the Street Patrol.
Armageddon Knight, Archfiend, Pabaliberant, and Reinforcements of the Army, affectionately known as Rota. If you ever see that being posted in the chat, it means Reinforcements of the Army.
Yes, and a Night Beam to...
And Night Beam, okay, that's interesting.
Benno, on the other hand, it doesn't look great, but he's got a Pot of Duality to look for what he's looking, find what he's looking for.
2 Mystical Space Defense. Because of the way the Infernity deck plays, it's very clear where the traps will end up.
Yep.
So he can use that to his advantage to make sure he takes out the cards that are going to disrupt him the most. But those 2 Spellbook towers are going to hurt because he can only have 1 field spell active at a time. He has the first turn though, so let's see.
Yeah, he just activated the Pot of Duality, and then he went searching right away again. So yeah, he picked the Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, summoned it, searched his deck, activated the Spellbook, and keeps searching. So suddenly he's in a pretty good position, or at least in a much better position than he was before, just with that one card, which made all the difference here.
Yeah, he's going to be establishing his side of the field pretty well here.
Yep. And so he passes play with only the Grand Spellbook Tower left in his hand, and as you can see his field, all his cards, apart from that redundant second copy, have been committed to the field.
Infernity Archfiends drawn by Piran, another monster card.
So the interesting thing is, it looks to Piran like there's a lot that might be stopping him, but there really isn't. I mean, well, there is the one Spellbook of Fate.
I don't know how many spellbooks he has in his graveyard. I think
two.
Two, right? So you can only flip a monster face down.
So that's not going to do much. And the two MSTs are not that useful either at this point in time. I mean, they might be good to take out a barrier later on, but right now it doesn't seem like it's going to do that much.
And here's this Photon Thrasher allowing these turn 1 plays to really take off, because he can get the Street Patrol and the Thrasher if he wants to resolve those. And then he's got, leaves him with very few cards in hand. Or is it Armageddon Knight he's going for? Yeah, Armageddon Knight to send something to the graveyard. Yeah,
so Piran is setting up his combos. His facial expression is giving away that he's thinking not that hard about it. One again, he's in, I want to say, autopilot mode. But that's not because the deck is so easy to play, but rather because he's been so many games in. And there's the Spellbook of Fate. Interestingly enough, we had a discussion in the chat where you guys kept pointing out that it was a misplay from Benedikt in the first game to flip the Fate that early on and just hold on to it for a little longer.
Well, that's part of the process, isn't it, of testing and knowing exactly when. It was so crucial then, because that one window came up and it could have been blocked. But
yes,
that's something that comes from experience in playing, but perhaps Benedikt is not super practiced against this Infernity deck.
Right. So Piran once again committing to the field, adding the Street Patrol, and now he can go for an Exceed Summon, which is quite likely. And just one more face down card on Benedikt's side of the field after the Night Beam took down the Mystical Space Typhoon, one of the two copies that was set there. And so once again, I think that Piran is feeling pretty confident that this is his opening that he needs.
Yeah, he's got Diamond Direwolf to take out the remaining Mystical Space Typhoons, and now no longer does Benedikt have an answer to this barrier that's going to happen. And now he can go, yep, here we go, Archfiend, and he's ready to rock and roll. I never say that. I don't know why I had to say it then, but whatever. Okay, so now he's considering what his options are.
Right, so
Piran
is throwing the card over to the other side of the field. He's like, how do you not know this card? This is such a good card.
It's probably more because he doesn't want to lose his train of thought. And if he has to explain the card to his opponent, it's going to reset his path of thinking on how he's memorized his combos, which is why he just quickly throws it to his opponent and carries on doing what he was doing.
Yeah. Piran is not one to easily get distracted. He's quite focused. So there's the attack.
And here's the situation where both players control field spell. Just over a year, well, just a couple of months ago, that wasn't possible.
That wasn't Is that a good thing?
Maybe for Benedikt here, because he gets his extra draw.
I mean, yes, of course. I mean, he would have minded to activate his second field spell to take out Piran's copy, I guess.
Yeah, but at that point, he's got to wait until his next turn, if he gets one, to get another draw off of this. Okay, Crescent's being played. If the barrier comes up, Benedikt is in a horrible position.
Yeah, and Piran, once again, he's thinking about what's the best moment in time to flip this barrier.
Well, he's going to consider well, he doesn't know what his opponent has in his hand. There's a Spellbook Tower and a High Priestess there. He doesn't know that, and the Crescent can get secrets. The secrets can get Spellbook Magician, which you can summon to get something else.
Interesting thing, though, is like Piran was looking at the card for a short time, and then he looked at his opponent. He's like, how do you feel about this play? Like, do you have more holding back or not? And then he made the decision, because Benno apparently put his poker face on, and Piran was...
I got cards.
Yep.
I can deal with this. Don't worry about it.
I mean, he's also got quite a presence. I mean, some people say that He looks like the Arnold Schwarzenegger of Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't really want to say if that's correct or not, but I let you guys be the judge of that.
He might watch this back, you know. Okay, so we're going to get a random spellbook added to Benedikt's hand. Kind of crucial that he gets a spellbook of secrets here. The trap that some people fall into is after they play Spellbook of Crescent, as soon as they get the secrets, they don't shuffle their deck because they're going to search again.
Yeah.
And then you'll find that one guy who can read that with a mind crush. You know, just totally going, oh, I can see what you've done there. And then you'll just sit there and just sort of go, ugh. Instant Fusion coming down for
Piran. Yeah, he's got his...
Wizard.
He doesn't have a lot of targets, but he doesn't need a lot of targets. He just needs it for that extra summon. So he can once again go for the rank 4.
Yep, so level chain being activated to send Hedris to the graveyard, which then lets him add Archfiend to the hand, or Necromancer to the hand. Yeah, Archfiend to the hand, because then he can get his Street Patrol.
Right. So once again our counter is going crazy. But that's the second time only in the second game. Let's see, right away he adds another one. And you gotta look at Benno's posture right there. He's like sitting in his chair, basically indicating bring it, but at the same time don't bring it too hard. Yeah,
it's like this combo is going off, and Spellbook's again at a disadvantage against.
Big problem is Benno just says it. Yeah, he's like, there's only one out for me, and that is if you misplay. And
yeah, he's not going to.
Exactly, you're Piran Asci. You've been playing this deck for the last, I don't know, 5 months or something. You've been playing it over and over and over again. So there's like really nothing I can do to stop you.
Just watching the speed he's doing the combo in the first game, you know he's not going to make a mistake.
He's just like, yeah, good game, my friend, and good luck for tomorrow.
Yeah,
basically.
You've got it. I'm not going to make you play it out. I've got nothing to do with this.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've seen it in the first game. Infernity still, if they have this opening, they just put special summon card after card to the field, and then they go for a big attack, which will end the game right there and then.
That Archfiend, the amount of control you gain from the barrier and the Infernity breaks. You know, there was a time where you could play free barrier.
Yeah.
And that was like, imagine that now. Well, don't imagine that. That'd be horrible.
Yeah, so a very convincing victory by Piran Asci once again, rounding out our first day of YCS Madrid.
Yeah, it's been quite the day we've had today.
Yeah, we've had on the stream that some of you just tuned in, because apparently in places like Hawaii, it's 7 in the morning, and some people were like, "Oh, I can watch this stream to prepare for my locals today." So,
yeah, always a good thing, right?
Yeah. So
what are they doing in Europe?
You didn't watch it from the very first moment on. The big story of the weekend going into the event was we expected to see a lot of Shaddoll. We expected to see a lot of Burning Abyss and Satellanites, and it turned out that we were kind of off of that prediction. I mean, 25% of the field, 1/4, did play Satellanites.
Yeah,
Shaddolls.
Sorry. Yeah.
Right. But the other two decks failed to put up such strong numbers, and only combined they made up less than 50% of the field.
Those two decks combined were less than the number of Shaddolls, and I would have expected Satellite to be much more equal to Shaddoll, not like almost 2 for 1.
Right. The decks that we did see instead was Mermails, and you guys kept pointing that out, because every time we saw Mermails on the stream, we were like, this seems like a rogue deck going into this tournament, and you guys were like, nope, Mermaids are still viable, and we've seen that to be the case today in our stream. Then we get Lightsworn decks as well, not to be discarded early on.
It's just 1% behind Burning Abyss.
Right. So, and then of course the Monarch deck in the first round, which is still my highlight of the day, to be honest.
I think Nadir ultimately got knocked out of the tournament today. I was trying to find him in the standings. Oh wait, is this
this is round 6? But he was on 8 points. 8 points, so he got his moment in round 1, but after that it was going a little bit sideways for him. But look, speaking of the standings, we got quite a few interesting pairings up at the top tables here. So Thomas Cavaliere, who we featured earlier on, he's still very much in the competition with 15 points on table 7. And I think, was it Thomas in the first round that lost to Nadir? Was it in the first round?
No, that was Luca.
Oh, that was Luca Cidoni, right. Thank you very much. So Rick Cherry, who we featured, and who also lost in the feature match, is now sitting at table 33 in this round with 12 points.
Very real chance of making it through.
Exactly. Luca Cidoni, who we just mentioned, also on 12 points. So we picked the veterans, and even though they didn't put up a... I mean, it was convincing, but they didn't get lucky enough in the feature match. They ended up pretty close to the top of the standings at the end of the day, which is when it matters the most.
Yeah, well, when you find out whether or not you're coming back tomorrow, that's the bit that you care about. If you get into tomorrow, it means that you've got a chance of making it through to win the tournament.
It's such a different story. Like you can finish the first day on a X2 record. Going into the second day, you're like, I have to win those 2 rounds. But if you do win those rounds, the odds are going to be reset because it's a knockout portion, and like everybody starts from scratch once again.
Yeah, once you get to the knockout, it's irrelevant how you finish in Swiss. It's if I lose this game, I'm out of the tournament.
And that's the thing, people call it the curse of Anubis. You go through the Swiss rounds undefeated, and you're
We did get a comment that we need more puns, so we should work on that. Before I go to sleep tonight, I'll count a whole bunch of these terrible puns.
All right. Currently on table 1, in the very last round that we just saw, was Armando Mandile versus Martin Francis. 2 players that I have to admit I didn't know prior to that event. So maybe this is gonna be their big breakout weekend. And after this event, we will remember them as one of the few.
One of those guys is finishing first after Swiss Day 1.
Yes.
Still got 2 more rounds of Swiss, so...
Yeah, not to get ahead of ourselves. Other big names that we can see at top of the standings are Joshua Schmidt. He was playing at the very first, not the first table, but like table 4 or something like that. So ever
he was
since
on table 5, wasn't he? Not last round?
Something like that.
Yeah.
So he's among the top of the standings, and you can never count that guy out because ever since...
Exceptional player.
Yeah, ever since he's done well at the World Championship. It's very interesting because prior to the European Championship, where he did so well, I think he didn't really have any results in, to be honest. And then he put that in. People were like, is that a fluke? Or is it gonna...
All happen in one go.
Yeah, and then from then on, you would never, ever have a YCS without Joshua Schmidt in the
every single one.
And speaking of topping event after event, Alpay Engin is also still very much alive. He had a draw in the second round or something like that, and he just went on winning in the draw bracket. So
2-time YCS champion.
Yes.
Both YCS Bochum, right?
Yes, yeah.
No, Berlin. 2 YCS Berlins, I believe.
Yes, it was. I think one time it was
Berlin
Bochum.
and Bochum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is also one of the players to look out for in case you're following the written coverage, which you can also find, which is accompanying our stream for the weekend. So you can look up the standings of all your favorite players from all countries of the world. We also have the deck breakdown there once again for you. So other stories of the weekend that we've seen quite a few interesting side deck choices.
Yes, we have.
One rule of thumb was that everything that is playing a lot of light or a lot of dark is ill positioned in this field because of the omnipresence of Shadow Imprisoning Mirror and Light Imprisoning Mirror in the side decks.
Yeah, you're gonna get the backlash from those because Shadow and Statella are considered the top dogs of the format, and Burning Abyss, which is also another dark deck. So these mirrors are going to be sided heavily by just about everybody because it doesn't take... Well, you Frank can just come up to you and say, hey, you know what, that's good against the Shadow deck. And they're going to go, oh yeah. Yeah.
Another card that we mentioned it earlier, used to be a silver bullet that people were like running 1-offs or 2-offs, was Vanity's Emptiness. And that changed. Like, we have seen it played in 3s in a lot of decks. And
just about every deck that can like turn it off when they need to, it's going in
we have seen the group around Alpay Engin and Joshua Schmidt adding double Cyclone to their main deck just so they had another out. They are playing Shadows, for most of them were playing Shadows. So just for that particular scenario where you want to go Shadow Fusion, opponent flips Vanity's Emptiness, you don't have to waste an MST, you just can keep them and just play double Cyclone, destroy your own Shadow Fusion and destroy the opponent's Vanity's Emptiness, just to make sure that your Fusion monster is going to hit the field.
Where Dust Tornado wouldn't do, I mean, Twister would have also been an option, but double Cyclone has other applications of being able to destroy spell trap cards, regardless of if they're face up or
Right.
face down.
Other cards we've seen this weekend that we didn't quite expect, were like A Memory of an Adversary by Rick Cherry.
Which very nearly swung the game.
Yes,
back to him.
it was pretty close. It came a little bit too late,
Yeah.
but it was close. And then I think the group around Claudio Kirchmeier and Rodrigo Togores was coming up with a card that could bring one monster from the graveyard back. I can't remember the name right now.
Burst Rebirth.
Yes.
That
yes.
sets a card for 2,000
Also-
life points.
Also very big investment, but players don't seem to mind that. They're like, this game is not going to last forever anyway.
People, now that people have been okay of investing 4,000 or 5,000 life points into a Soul Charge when they're pushing, 2,000 life points now. We've seen Soul Charge drop from free, like auto freeze down to maybe 1 or 2, because people realize you can only really support 1 or 2
Right.
activations of this card before you just run out of life points, because your opponent's going to be hitting you. You're going to be paying all your life points. And Burst Rebirth is another one of those cards where it's 2,000 of your life points, but it's paying off for some people.
Another sideboard card that didn't make such an impact, but still caught quite a few looks was a Mystic Walk.
Yeah, Mystic Walk. I was just I saw that. I was like, oh,
I mean, if you're playing a slow deck and you expect to end up in the timeout every once in a while, it seems like an option. And
well, the trick is to not go into time, but
Yeah.
some matches are going to be longer than others.
well, I mean, at least it gave us a setup for yet another great joke when we're like, walk is going on right there. But
more puns.
yeah.
Puns of damage.
Okay, so we got Europe's veterans in the field. It's one of the smaller YCSs, which makes it more interesting because all of the players that have been plenty of experience will be grouping together at the very top of the standings, and they are gonna bound to go up against each other in next to no time. Like I think tomorrow in the first 2 rounds we.
Sorry, I was getting a sign held up, but the piece of paper had kind of done.
Yeah,
this. So I'm just getting that, and I'm like,
we should just have our own sign that says OK, and then every time we see that sign, we just go like, yeah, we got it.
And we're just like, I can't tell what you're saying. And so our technician, he turns the paper to face somebody else on his team, so we still can't read that it's 1 minute remaining.
Right. So we're about to wrap things up over here. The tech team is getting ready to file some stuff away for the time being, and then tomorrow, bright and early, at 9.
Yes, I believe round 1 starts 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock in the
have to
morning.
be in their seats ready to play.
Our time, of course. So yeah, in case you're living in a different time zone, like Hawaii.
Central